Good day, everyone. So for this session, I am to discuss the Republic Act number 11469 or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. Learning objectives. At the end of this lesson, the students are expected to determine the purpose of RA 11469, identify the sections of RA 11469, and lastly, determine the different regulations, functions, and policies covered by the RA 11469. So this RA 11469 is an act declaring the existence of a national emergency arising from the coronavirus disease 2019 situation, and also it is a national policy in connection with COVID-19, and it authorizes the President of the Republic of the Philippines for a limited period and subject to restrictions to exercise powers necessary and proper to carry out the decided national policy and for other purposes. Section 1, short title. So this act shall be known and cited as Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. Section 2, State of National Emergency. So the Presidential Proclamation number 922 series of 2020 was issued declaring a state of public health emergency throughout the Philippines due to COVID-19, and also the code alert system for COVID-19 was raised to code red sub-level 2, and this is in accordance with the recommendations of the Department of Health and IATF. And furthermore, the Presidential Proclamation number 929 series of 2020 was also issued declaring a state of calamity throughout the Philippines and imposed an enhanced community quarantine throughout Luzon. And because of this continuing rise in the cases of COVID-19 and the threat to health of the people and also the disruption in economic activities, now what happened is a state of national emergency was declared over the entire Philippines. Now let us have the section 3, the declaration of policy. So because COVID-19 has greatly affected a lot of people in the country, and also it caused a lot of damages and continued disruption of the economy, the government has identified that there is an urgent need for the following. So number 1, mitigate the transmission of COVID-19. So that now includes the wearing of masks, of face shields, and other PPE that would greatly reduce the transmission of the virus. And also to immediately mobilize assistance in the provision of basic necessities to families and individuals affected by the imposition of community quarantine, especially the indigents and also their families. And also to undertake measures that will prevent the overburdening of the healthcare system. And next one, to provide healthcare, so that now includes medical tests and treatments to COVID-19 patients and also to PUIs or persons under investigations, or the PUM or the persons under monitoring. And also to undertake a program for the recovery and rehabilitation, so that now includes social amelioration program and also the provision of safety nets to all affected sectors. Next one, ensure that there is available funding to undertake the foregoing and also to partner with the private sectors and other stakeholders to deliver these measures and programs quickly and efficiently, and also to promote and protect the collective interest of all Filipinos, of course, in these challenging times. Section 4, authorized powers. So the President is hereby authorized to exercise powers that are necessary and proper to carry out the declared national policy. So the President was granted the power to adopt the following temporary emergency measures to respond to crisis brought by the pandemic. So number 1, to adopt and implement measures to prevent or suppress further transmission and spread of COVID-19. So this is as stated in the guidelines and practices mandated by the World Health Organization. So this is also achieved through effective education also detection, we also have the protection, and the treatment of affected individuals. Next one, to expedite and streamline the accreditation of testing kits and also to facilitate prompt testing by public and designated private institutions of the persons under investigations and the persons under monitoring. And also, as stated in this Republic Act, the cost of treatment for COVID-19 patients shall be covered under the National Health Insurance Program of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or the PhilHealth. Next one, there is also a provision of an emergency subsidy, and the amount of subsidy shall be a minimum of 5,000 pesos to a maximum of 8,000 pesos. That's per month for 2 months. However, this will be computed based on the prevailing regional minimum wage rates. And also, next one, we have provide health workers with a COVID-19 SRA. So this is a special risk allowance for COVID. So this is also in addition to the hazard pay granted to healthcare workers under the Magna Carta of Public Health Workers. And that's what we call as the Republic Act 7305. So again, that's Magna Carta of Public Health Workers. Next one, direct the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or the PhilHealth, to shoulder all medical expenses of both the public and private health workers if in case they are exposed to COVID-19 or they encounter any work-related injuries or diseases during the duration of the emergency. And also, there is a provision of compensation for healthcare workers. So if in case they contact a severe COVID-19 infection while they are in their duty, so they will be given 100,000 pesos. And also a compensation of 1 million pesos will be given to the public and private health workers who may die while fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. Next one, ensure that LGUs are acting within the letter and spirit of the rules, regulations, and directives issued by the government. And also that all LGUs shall be authorized to utilize more than 5% of the amount allocated for their calamity fund, and this is subject to additional funding and support from the national government. And also to direct the operation of any privately owned hospitals and medical health facilities. So this also includes the passenger vessels or the establishments to house healthcare workers, or the places where it could serve as a quarantine areas or quarantine centers, and also for the distribution of medical relief and medical aid. And also, this is consistent, this function is consistent with the Section 17 of the Article 12 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. So again, that's Section 17, Article 12 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Next is to continue enforce measures to protect the people from hoarding, profiteering, injurious speculations, manipulations of prices, products deceptions, and cartels, also the monopolies or other combinations in restraint of trade or other pernicious practices that may affect the supply, the distribution, and the movement of food, the clothing, the hygiene and sanitation products, the medicine and medical supplies, and a lot of materials, and also including with it are the machinery equipments or the spare parts, for example, required in agriculture, in industry, and other essential services that are necessary during this pandemic, whether they are imported or locally produced or manufactured. Next one, to ensure that donation, acceptance, and distribution of health products intended to address the COVID-19 public health emergency are not unnecessarily delayed, and that health products for donation duly certified by the regulatory agencies or their accredited third party. Next one, undertake the procurement of different needs in the most expeditious manner. So the procurement of the following goods such as the PPEs, also that includes the gloves, the gowns, the mask, the goggles, the face shields. Also, we have here the surgical and lab equipment and also the reagents used in the laboratory. Also, the medical equipment and devices and other consumables. So, when we say consumables, I'm referring to, for example, alcohols, sanitizers, tissues, thermometers, detergent, hand soap, and other cleaning materials just like the iodine or the common medicines used for the treatment of the patients. And also, we have here to partner with the Philippine Red Cross as the primary humanitarian agency that is auxiliary to the government in giving aid to the people subject to reimbursement in the distribution of goods and services incidental in the fight against COVID-19. Next one, engage temporary human resources for health, or what we call as the HRH, such as the medical and allied medical staff, to complement or supplement the current health workforce or to man the temporary medical facilities to be established. And also provided that this HRH that will be hired for temporary basis will of course receive their appropriate compensations and allowances, and also that all HRH serving in the front line during the COVID-19 pandemic shall receive an actual hazard duty pay from the government. Next one, ensure the availability of credit to the productive sectors of the economy, especially in the countryside. Also, liberalize the grant of incentives for the manufacture or importation of critical or needed equipment or supplies. Next, ensure the availability of essential goods. So we have the food and medicine in particular. So this means that there should be no reason to disrupt the supply chains, especially in the basic commodities and the services offered to the public. Next one, require businesses to prioritize and accept contracts object to fair and reasonable terms for materials and services necessary to promote the herein declared national policy. Also, to regulate and limit the operation of all sectors of transportation through land, sea, or air, whether private or public. And also to regulate traffic on all roads, streets, and bridges and access thereto, and prohibit putting up of encroachments or obstacles, for example. And also the authorized removal of encroachments and illegal constructions in public places. Next, continue to authorize alternative working arrangements for employees and workers in the executive branch, and whether it becomes necessary in other independent branches of government and constitutional bodies and the private sector. And also conserve and regulate the distribution and use of power, fuel, energy, and water, and also other related supplies. Next one, direct the discontinuance of appropriated programs, projects, or activities of any agency of the executive department. And also, the following items in the budget shall be prioritized for augmentation. So we have first under the Department of Health. So first, for the Department of Health, it includes the operational budgets of government hospitals, primarily, of course, those identified for the treatment of COVID-19, and also the prevention and control of other infectious diseases, and the emergency preparedness and response, and also the quick response fund. How about for the University of the Philippines? So it includes the operational budget for the PGH or Philippine General Hospital. Next one, the National Disaster Risk Reduction Fund or the Calamity Fund. Next, for the Department of Labor and Employment, so we have this tulong panghanap buhay sa ating disadvantaged or displaced workers, and also the COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program. So that's tulong panghanap buhay and also the COVID Adjustment Measures Program, so the CAMP. Next one, under the Department of Trade and Industry, so we have the Livelihood Seeding Program and Negosyo Serbisyo sa Barangay. Next, under the Department of Agriculture, Rice Farmers Financial Assistance Program. For the DepEd, or the Department of Education, so we have School-Based Feeding Program, and also under various Department of Social Welfare and Development Programs, such as the Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations, or the AICS. So again, that's Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations. Also, the distribution of food and non-food items, also the livelihood, the feeding program also for daycare centers. Under allocations also to local government units, and also the quick response funds lodged in the various relevant departments, such as but not limited to DOH and DSWD. Another thing, any unutilized or unreleased balance in a special purpose fund as of the date of declaration of a state of emergency shall be considered to have their purpose abandoned for the duration of the state of emergency. So that means all unspent, unutilized, or unreleased money or funds sourced from the collections or receipt, including those future collection receipts, shall be utilized and appropriated for measures to address the COVID-19 situation. And next one, reprogram, reallocate, and realign from savings on other items of appropriations in the FY 2020 GAA in the Executive Department. So that means all amounts to reprogram, to reallocate, or to realign shall be appropriated for the measures to address the COVID-19 situations. Next, allocate cash, funds, investments, including unutilized or unreleased subsidies and transfers. And also move statutory deadlines and timelines for the filing and submission of any documents, the payment of taxes, the fees, and other charges required by law, and the grant of any benefit in order to ease the burden on individuals under community quarantine. Also, direct all banks and financial institutions, including the GSIS, SSS, and Pag-ibig Fund, to implement a minimum of 30-day grace period for the payment of all loans. And also, provide for a minimum of also 30-day grace period on residential rents falling due within the period of the enhanced community quarantine. Also, implement an expanded and enhanced Pantawid Pamilya program. Next one, lift the 30% cap on the amount appropriated for the Quick Response Fund as provided in the Republic Act 10121. And also, undertake such other measures as may be reasonable and necessary to enable the President to carry out the declared national policy subject to the Bill of Rights and other constitutional guarantees. For the Section 5, we have reports to Congress and the creation of an oversight committee. So the President, during the Monday of every week, shall submit a weekly report to Congress of all acts performed pursuant to this Republic Act during the immediately preceding week. So the report shall also include the amount and the corresponding utilization of the funds, the used funds, the augmented funds, programmed, reallocated, and realigned funds pursuant to this Republic Act. And for the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee, so it is composed of 4 members from each of the House, and they are appointed by the Senate President and the House Speaker respectively. Section 6, penalties. So for the penalties, a minimum of 2 months imprisonment and a payment of 10,000 pesos to 1 million pesos. Section 7, construction or interpretation, and then Section 8, separability, and then Section 9, the effectivity of this Republic Act. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something.